Welcome back. Did you have a chance to listen to the episode from last week with Michelle? Well, funny or not so funny, totally universe, but I started seeing a functional medicine practitioner because while I was on the surrogacy journey, I was put on thyroid medication. My thyroid was in the normal range, but above the optimal range for pregnancy. And I started seeing her so I could find out if I could get off the medicine. Do I just like get off of it? Do I wean off of it? How does this work? And she did some other blood tests and found a couple other numbers outside of the optimal range. And because of that, I'm actually going to be going on a gluten-free diet for at least the next 8 weeks. Then we will recheck levels. But I thought that was so funny that right after recording that episode, I'm on that journey myself. So, gosh, I'm so happy that you're here listening to this episode. I want to share something just that melted my heart. Someone new joined Brave Academy. Her name's Nancy, and she sent me a message after a call that we had. She joined when I had a special promotion going on that she could have a free one-on-one call. And so after this call, she said, I'm just going to read you the email. Dr. Steph, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for our one-on-one coaching call. After searching for relief from my anxiety and meeting with other coaches, I am so grateful that I found the Brave Academy in you. Your kindness, empathy, and gentle presence created a safe space where I could truly be myself. You understood me so deeply, and it felt like you knew exactly where to go next. Talking to you was like talking to a big sister who just gets it. No judgment, just real connection and support. I left our session feeling lighter and more hopeful, and I can't wait to book another one-on-one call with you. Thank you for the incredible work that you do. It just melted my heart so much, so much. And I want to work with as many of you as possible. I know this is just one way, so I never get to hear about your journeys. But every now and then, even if you decide not to work with me now or at all, take the time and send me a note to leave a podcast review. I'd love to hear how things are resonating with you, what's standing out, what shifts you've made from listening to the podcast. I appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you're here listening. I have a question. And I encourage you to listen to this, even if it doesn't initially sound like you, because I imagine that there may be somebody that that this applies to, and you still may be able to get some good nuggets from this one. I'm wondering if you have ever found yourself Googling a minor symptom. I mean, come on, who hasn't? But this part may not apply to everyone, but then only to convince yourself that something serious is wrong. Or maybe you feel fine in the moment, but then suddenly start hyper fixating and hyper focusing on a strange sensation in your body, wondering if it's a sign of something life threatening. If this sounds familiar, you might be dealing with health anxiety, or you might know someone who's dealing with health anxiety if you've heard somebody talk to you about this. Several individuals have reached out to me recently wondering what they can do to overcome these problems and if I can help them. So in today's episode, what I want to do is dive into what health anxiety is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to manage it so that it doesn't take over your life. I mean, because ultimately health anxiety is excessive worry about having or developing a serious medical condition. It's not just being cautious about your health, it's being overwhelmed, like having an overwhelming fear that something is wrong or that something will be wrong, even when there is no medical evidence to support that. And the tricky part, and you may have experienced this already, is the more that you worry, the more the physical symptoms come up and the more that you experience. And Very quickly, I want to explain why that happens because essentially your nervous system is perceiving your worry as an additional threat. And so it adds more of these physical sensations, which is just your body strengthening so that it can protect itself from the threat. Stress and anxiety, they can cause things like headaches, stomach discomfort, dizziness, muscle tension, the list goes on and on. And when the mind perceives that as a threat, it fuels the cycle of fear. So, what I want to do is just go over 5 common signs that you're struggling with health anxiety so that you know, okay, this is me or this is not me. As I go through these, just make a note for yourself on the extent to which this has been your experience. Number 1, constantly checking for body symptoms to the extent that you frequently scan your body looking for lumps, rashes, or any sensation that seems off. Number 2, frequent doctor visits or emergency room visits. This could also go on the flip side where you're actively avoiding the doctor completely. And this may show up as constantly seeking reassurance from doctors or avoiding medical appointments because you're afraid that you're going to get the bad news. Number 3 is Googling symptoms excessively, searching online for mild symptoms and then convincing yourself that you have a severe illness, or allowing Google to convince you that you do because you know what happens when you Google things. Almost anything it can bring up a site that says you're going to, you're not going to make it. I know that's happened to me a number of times. Number 4, needing reassurance from others. So to what extent are you repeatedly asking friends or family or medical professionals if you're okay? And then number 5, catastrophic thinking, believing that a minor symptom must mean something serious, like assuming a headache could be a brain tumor. Now, I don't ever want to discount legitimate concerns. And so I want to emphasize what I said a moment ago, but this is especially if you have been to a doctor, multiple doctor's appointments, multiple emergency room visits, you've checked with a medical professional and everything is okay, then this is where this comes into play. Now, if you recognize yourself in these patterns, just know you are not alone. Sometimes these things can feel so isolating because sometimes it feels like nobody else is dealing with this. You're not alone. So many women have reached out to me about this, and you can overcome health anxiety. And I'm curious if you see yourself in some of these signs or all of these signs and which ones resonate the most. Health anxiety is not random. It often stems from a few key things. I'm going to go over those real quick. The first one is past experiences. And if this is you, you know this. Maybe you've had a serious illness before, or someone close to you has, and it has just made you hyper aware of potential health problems. Situations like this are often best resolved with subconscious reprogramming. If you've been listening for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this. And this is best suited when I'm going to try to explain this really quickly. When something traumatic has happened, you can get a glob of data stuck in your subconscious mind, and the glob of data is being read as it's about to happen or it's currently happening. So the turmoil stays and the feeling of stuckness stays. When we do subconscious reprogramming, we can basically push out that glob of data so that it goes into storage and you're able to recall it, you're able to look at it, you're able to talk about it, but it doesn't feel super dysregulating and it doesn't feel to your mind like it's currently happening or about to happen. If you have questions on that, feel free to DM me on Instagram and we can chat and see if that's a good fit for you. The second one is fear of uncertainty. The human mind does not like uncertainty. Okay? It doesn't. And so if you feel like, oh, this is just me, like I'm just so dysregulated by things that are uncertain, you're not alone. It's your mind is normal. You're human. Now, health is one of those areas where the mind, the human, can crave absolute certainty, which obviously we will never have, but it makes sense. And this is something that you can overcome. The third one is exposure to health-related news. This can vary by person in terms of like how plugged in you are to the news. On the news, there are trends relatively frequently about diseases, pandemics, sudden illnesses, and that can result in our minds being hyper alert to health threats, especially given the goal of our mind, whether rational or not, but to always survive. And the fourth one is perfectionism and control. If you are someone who likes to have control over everything, the unpredictability of health can feel especially scary. Thankfully, though, there's a lot that can be done to shift these tendencies. So with all of this, I don't want you to feel ever like, oh, this is just the way that I am, because if you listen to enough episodes, you will pick up on, I do not believe that. I never believe that. If you want to change, you can with the right method. But I'm curious, can you relate to those 4 things that I just mentioned, or maybe 1 or 2 of them? Health anxiety, unfortunately, tends to present itself in a cycle. You notice a symptom, you start to worry, you seek reassurance, whether through Google or doctors or other people. You might feel temporarily relieved. And then the anxiety tends to return, but often worse than before. If you've experienced health anxiety, you know this is you. This has been your reality, and you've likely been evaluated, like I said, numerous times by a medical doctor, and you've been reassured it's just anxiety, but you don't know how to stop it. And you just want to be free from this. I get that. I know how vicious it can feel to be stuck in a cycle and not know how to get off I was going to say the hamster wheel. That's the visual that came to mind for me. And you've probably read all the things online and you recognize your pattern. Maybe you've tried to limit how often you Google symptoms online, or you've told yourself to at least stop Googling. And you've probably tried telling yourself, like, you're safe, there's nothing to worry about, but you still feel stuck. And if this has been your reality, I understand how incredibly frustrating it's been. Here's the first step. If you really haven't identified, oh, this has been my pattern, that's the first step. And it might just sound just like that. This has been my pattern. Next time you notice that the cycle is starting. And then next time you feel the urge to check the symptom online or to seek reassurance, take a deep breath, maybe deep breaths for 3 to 5 minutes, pause, and instead of reacting, I want you to write down what you're feeling. Maybe you're going to ask yourself something along these lines, maybe all of these questions. What am I afraid this means? Is there actual evidence for this fear? And just this small amount of awareness can start to break the cycle. Just the shift in the pattern, because you're shifting how you respond to the trigger. Now, up to now, you've allowed the symptoms to send you into a state of panic. That is, if you're resonating with this. And the work from here on out is to perceive them for what they are. Now, you may have picked up on this at the beginning of the episode, but if not, I'll be more direct. What you want to do is be able to meet that anxiety, that physical sensation, with a level of indifference. Imagine you have a pool and you have a candle. If you dunk the candle in the water, that's the equivalent of indifference to anxiety. It can't continue. So when there's indifference, the symptoms will disappear. Inside Brave Academy, you're going to learn the exact tools to be able to do that. So DM me the word academy on Instagram and we can chat and see if you're a good fit. I promise I will tell you if you're not. I've turned away several people before. And remember this, your thoughts about your health are not the same as reality. Your body is stronger and more resilient than your anxiety tells you, even if it feels like it's not. I know I'm thinking of one client in particular who felt like her gut would like twist and she felt so disappointed in her body and she felt weak. But I promise you, your body is stronger and more resilient than your anxiety thinks it is. If you found this episode helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend who might be struggling with health anxiety or just anxiety in general. And if you want more tools for managing anxiety, just make sure that you hit that subscribe button, that follow button, depending what podcast provider you're using, and don't miss future episodes. And I will see you on the next one.